Well, the outcome of Saturday's state polls in Malaysia is regarded by some analysts as a setback to Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's unity government. Despite retaining stronghold states, the results have raised concerns about dwindling support for the leader. Commentators say Mr Anwar will need to step up his charm offensive to win back the Malay vote while preventing potential defections within his ruling coalition. For more insights on the implications of the state elections, we're joined by Mr Adlib Zalkapli. He is the director of Val Group Asia, a government affairs and public policy consulting firm in Kuala Lumpur. Welcome and thanks so much for joining us this evening. Now, I take it you were one of those, and I quote you from an early interview, to see the results of this state election, these state elections, as and I quote you, a setback for the ruling coalition government. Why would you frame it that way?
Well, yeah, firstly, I acknowledge that it's the state elections. They have no implication on federal seats where the source of power for the Prime Minister came from. But whichever way you look at it, the main contenders are parties that support the unity government, and the Prime Minister is the leader of one of the coalitions in the federal government. So his party and his partner's parties are directly competing in the state elections, and the fact that they lost a significant number of Malay seats to Perikatan Nasional, the federal opposition coalition, I think that qualifies as a setback for the federal unity government.
All right, but if we look at the breakdown of the loss of seats, for example, how many were lost due to Pakatan Harapan, how many lost from UMNO? UMNO put forward 107. Was contending 107 seats. It only won 19, so that puts its success rate at a relatively paltry 17.7%. UMNO, and when I spoke to you about this last year after the GE, you said the whole point of UMNO was to lend legitimacy to the unity government, to take care, in a way, of the Malay vote. Looking at the results this time around, has UMNO done its job?
Yes, I agree. I mean, that was UMNO's role, actually, and it still is the party's role in the unity government to provide legitimacy to the unity government by being the representative of the Malay community. But yeah, looking at the outcome of this, the results in the 6 states, obviously UMNO has yet to be able to deliver what it's supposed to deliver, the Malay votes. But don't forget that UMNO's role in the unity government it has a dual role in the unity government. The tangible part of it, which is bringing in Malay votes, but it also has a symbolic role to play. So we can expect the anchor of the unity government, the parties in Pakatan Harapan, to continue to play the role of supporting UMNO to win Malay votes before the next general election.
How can it do that, though? I mean, Mr Anwar Ibrahim's strategy so far, and to be fair to him, he has not had a great deal of time, has been to stress governance, clean governance, and economic reform. These things are notoriously hard to actually show any results from. How can PH support UMNO as UMNO struggles to find its feet to win back the Malay vote that Perikatan Nasional at this point seems to be winning so very easily?
Yes, I mean, it's only been 8 or 9 months, you rightly pointed out. So some of these agenda, their plans would take time to be felt by the people, including the Malay voters, especially the Malay voters. So throughout this short period, I mean, the contest, the competition for Malay votes taking place, outside of the policy discourse, outside of discourse on good governance, but they are mostly symbolic. And Perikatan Nasional have kind of, I think, what they've achieved is a miracle, actually, to be able to create, to become a front, a united political front for the Malay community. But then again, they also have their own challenges. Perikatan Nasional has not done well in mixed multiracial seats.
All right, so what PN, Perikatan Nasional, needs to be thinking of doing next is to reach out for the moderate seats So beyond the rural Malay and even urban Malay seats, it needs to get seats from other quarters, or it will never reach the majority it needs in government.
Yeah, realistically, if Perikatan Nasional is serious about winning the federal government, they have to win multiracial seats. So what we will see in the next few years is, I think Perikatan Nasional will have to move out of their comfort zone, trying to win more multiracial seats to make up the numbers in parliament. And the same can also be said about Pakatan Harapan and Anwar and his coalition partners, to step out of their strongholds, try to win the Malay voters, not just in rural but also urban areas. As we saw, some of the seats won by Perikatan Nasional in Selangor are actually in urban areas situated just outside Kuala Lumpur, Taman Medan, for example.
All right, final question here. As you say, stepping out of their comfort zone. So PN needs to reach out for that. And on Mr Anwar's part, to be fair to him, in the last few months, we have seen him, and this is actually a criticism of him by some analysts, his government has appeared to take more conservative stances on certain issues that may have been something more familiar with past than, say, Pakatan Harapan. And it's in this, I quote you, it's clear now that adopting socially conservative policies will not win them even more votes. They should focus on governing and the economy, which is where their strong points are. But like PN, it needs to reach out of its comfort zone and perhaps adopt, arguably, a slightly more conservative stance on certain issues. Is that something you might recommend, or is suggested here you do not recommend at all? Stick to what you're good at.
No, I don't recommend going conservative for the Pakatan Harapan coalition, simply because I think largely conservative voters, socially conservative voters, have made up their mind who are conservative politicians. So Pakatan Harapan will not be labeled as conservative coalition overnight. It's in fact it's actually easier for them to just, like you said, stick to what they're good at. Focus on the good governance, focus on the economy, and try to win Malay votes, the conservative votes, in a different way, rather than trying to be another PAS or another Bersatu.
Oh, thanks so much for speaking to us this evening. Mr Adib Zulkifli, speak to us live there from Kuala Lumpur.